welcome to Unity Update 31. This episode we thought we'd try something different. We'd ask Lewis the really burning questions and thoughts people might have about Unity and yourself and where everything's at. So welcome, Lewis.
Thank you.
How are you
Looking forward to
feeling?
this. Good. I'm doing well. Obviously, it's still super intense, super stressful, just like it always was. But yeah, kind of learned over the years how to manage it well. So yeah, I'm feeling really good.
Yeah.
Team's doing great. They're under a huge amount of pressure. I mean, they don't seem to be under a lot of pressure, but yeah, everything's going great from that respect. Haven't had much time to do any training or rock climbing or anything lately, but obviously, but yeah.
So what's been going on recently? What have you been up to? Where's everything at? What was the most recent thing that's been happening, really?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we spent this year basically just shaving the burn rate down as low as possible and just hyper-focusing the whole organization on getting this production intent car ready. And there's a lot of work in that. There's details from bill of materials to how you're going to produce it to all that kind of stuff. So working with our engineering partner with a pathway into production to really define that production intent car so it's at a state where we can say, this is it. This is the first Unity one. And that's something that's appealing to both the B2C customer, the direct sales side of things, which isn't a big part of what we're doing here, but also very much for what the mobility as a service platform is that's the primary focus of the company.
Okay, so you're saying that the shared service is the primary focus. How does that play into business model for Unity in the future?
Well, I mean that is our primary business model. How we basically do it, the product portfolio, product profile, you could say, can be basically broken down into a matrix of B2C, B2B. You could blanket call it B2B, like fleets, and small, really like micro size. So 3 seats, basically what we showed today. 3 seats, good for delivering packages, all that kind of stuff, and sort of compact size, 5 seats, and so forth. The 5-seater is specifically, we haven't designed it yet, but it's specifically to be designed for ride hailing. And hey, some people will want to buy it. And the 3-seater is specifically designed for on-demand, like delivery services. So that's like Uber Eats, Delivery Hero, Hungrig, deliver me a pizza, or I need to have this delivered within 30 minutes. That is like a monster trend. We see it as a great way to decrease congestion in cities, because we come from a world where, the overall perception is, hey, I need to get a pizza, or I need to get some milk, or I need to go and get a book from the store. So I get my keys, get in my big SUV, drive down to the store and collect my book. But obviously, if you look at Amazon and the way the world is going, it's much more bring it to you. These companies don't see you as somebody that needs to drive there. They see you as someone that needs to eat or read or cook or whatever else. So that's really the world that we're designing for. I guess to elaborate on the business model a bit, effectively what we want to do is have these really energy efficient, carbon neutral vehicles plugged in all over the place, and have anybody be able to just download an app, step into a car, and start making money. So basically, you just switch it on and start making deliveries and have all of the different deliveries that they can do, whether they be people, pizzas, packages, anything else in between, racked up in the system. So I think that'll be obviously very meaningful for the climate, very meaningful for a society we want that's, in which we're not breathing in these vehicle emissions. I mean, when I go to London and then I come back here to Lund in Sweden, the first thing I do is take a big gulp of air, and I think that kind of fresh air would be great for everybody to have. And also, I mean, imagine what it would mean to that student who struggles to pay their rent. Maybe they're someone new to a country or someone that's down in their luck a little bit. to be able to just download an app, check into a car, and start making deliveries and start getting paid a salary and a dignified job. I've been that guy. So I know it, man. I think it's really a nice kind of world that I want to live in and the team wants to live in. Part of that is to put out chargers everywhere. Our first charger is arriving this month. Can't wait to show the world. It's basically an ad-supported charger, so it does deploy ads. Those ads pay for the energy and the setup and the servicing and so forth, and that's completely free for everybody, but it allows us to have somewhere to park and charge our car overnight. So we can deploy these everywhere, give everybody free charging, accelerate the electric car movement, and have somewhere to have distributed parking for our cars, so that these other companies, software companies, as I mentioned, Uber Eats and Hungry and the Delivery Hero, they can just whack their software on there and people can go and start making money. So the goal there is really, carbon reduction, emissions reduction, congestion, addressing congestion, and certainly creating a significant job creation endeavor right across the country, really for the group of people that need it most. The youth, they need to have a job, they need to pay their rent. To be able to do that for them, I think, would be wonderful. So that's the real focus. But as said, we designed for that, and if people want to buy it, they can sign up and buy it. And those ones that buy it, they'll get access to these services as well. So peer-to-peer car sharing, different ways they can generate revenue on their car, with the hope that they can subsidize the cost or even get it free or even make money off of it. So obviously these new business models business model innovation is really what we focus on in here. So
you talk about reducing congestion, but you're a car company that's selling cars. How does that play together?
Well, first of all, we look at the data. The average occupancy of any vehicle trip in Sweden, for example, is 1.2 people. And these are big cars. Almost all the time, you got one person with a bunch of empty seats. So the first step is to say, does this make sense? Or is there a gap in the market for something that is really designed for the actual use case? No, it doesn't fit everybody, right? A lot of people still want to have SUVs, but for those that want a much more efficient vehicle, like it's a 600 kg vehicle, and a lightweight vehicle, that makes sense if the battery is the most expensive part and the most costly for the environment. So that's the first step. Make sure the vehicle really makes sense for the actual use case. But the other part is, as I said, do we all need to constantly drive to the store to pick stuff up and collect things? And, how much of the mobility is just us driving somewhere where it could be coming to us? So that's the other way. Let's just make it much more efficient. Let's not have cars parked for 96% of their life. We make smaller form factor vehicles that are busy all the time, and it gets other cars off the road. Saving people money, big job creation activity, and done in a climate neutral manner.
That's very fascinating. But you're a relatively small team. How do you think you're going to be the one that achieves it when larger OEMs and things like that are trying to produce electric cars now?
Yeah, so it's a twofold question. Large OEMs, obviously, they're much better than us at manufacturing cars. They got way more capital, but they do have a business model primarily focused on selling cars. We find even with some of the data showing, think about it, you design a car to be sold. Oh, and by the way, it's used for ride hailing, or it's used to deliver. Pizzas here are delivered in a Renault Zoe, 5-seat car. The driver gets out into oncoming traffic, gets the pizzas out of the boot, and hands them over. Pizza is a simple example, but there are many different examples like this. So obviously something that fits there probably makes a bit more sense, and that's really the role of a startup, right? To think differently and to do their best to make that work and prove that works. I think a big company would be very valuable in this journey, and we are talking to a couple of them now. I think now is the right time to get a big brother OEM to sort of help us with the stuff that we lack. But those items that we do have is thinking differently, deploying this model, and I do expect at some point we'll benefit from the support of a larger organization, and I think that would potentially benefit from a new style of thinking, a skunkworks engineering team, and a brand that's designed and a product that's designed for an entirely different world than what we're living in today.
And why do you think you can achieve it? What makes you different?
So, I mean, why do we think we can achieve it? Well, obviously, I don't know for a fact that we can achieve it, right? The probability of failure is very high. We've always known that, but we know it's such an important task. I mean, when Elon Musk says if something's important enough, you still do it, that means something to me. So why I think we can achieve it is just because I've seen the changes that we've gone through, how resilient the company is. We started with this explosion of creativity, right? A lot of angst, a lot of frustration. I remember just feeling like, what is going on? Sitting in a traffic jam, reading data from research articles, like Swedish, I think Umeå University said there's a direct link between vehicle emissions and mental health medication in children. That is medication that changes a child's personality. I used to be extremely troubled by all this kind of stuff, and not so much anymore. But I've just seen the company go through these phases of angst and frustration, and we've got to do something, and this explosion of creativity, and it slowly gets closer and closer to where we are today. And I mean, we stared failure in the face so many times, and to getting it to where it is today and having such a great team and more experienced people come on board, that tells me that we've got a shot at this. But yeah, I mean, obviously I can't guarantee it. We can only think good thoughts and say good words and do good deeds and do the best we can, and that's all we can do.
And for your long-term vision, where do you think Unity will, what kind of role will Unity play in the future?
Role, I mean, like I said, I'd just love to have, I don't see a world where people just keep on buying cars and we keep making 100 million cars per year, and we just sell more and more and more and more and more, and they're terribly resource inefficient. The role I would love us to play is to prove that this works, maybe have more people heading in that direction, and I don't know, I'd just love to play any small role in making the streets less congested, making the air cleaner, giving people a job, contributing to the climate problem that we have. So yeah, I don't mind. I just want to contribute something to that. I do the best we can to contribute something to that.
Mm. And who do you think you're appealing, like, as a product and as a brand to? Like, where's your market segment? And
so for the direct sales, B2C sales, people often think, oh, it's young people, they're going to love this. It's not. It's like 45-year-old males mostly, quite a lot of females, but they're all in that category that they know the buy a car model and they have enough money to do it, so that's what they want to have. The young people, they like to follow us, they like to support us, they're passionate about the brand and the identity of the company and the values, because that's who we are. But yeah, they're not big buyers of cars, and I think that the next generations to come are not going to want any cars at all. It's very soon before they don't even have a license. I mean, I don't have a license anymore.
A driver's license?
Yeah, my Australian license expired, and then I just never got one. So, but I got a scooter. It's awesome. I drive a scooter around, and I get stuff delivered to my house. I mean, if you don't buy a car, you can use, that's plenty of money to get everything delivered to you. Take the occasional Uber. If we can play a role in decreasing the cost of that and making that really efficient and really quick, like right when you need it, maybe decreasing the cost of ride hailing even, and whilst increasing the margins for the companies so they can scale quicker. yeah, I mean, that's the direction the world is heading in, so that's what we're designing for. We can only do what we feel compelled to do, right? So, yeah.
Nice. And what kind of role do you think Unity plays in society with public transport and like those kind of things?
I mean, today, not much role at all.
No.
Obviously, the model I'm talking about for on-demand delivery means cars are parked everywhere. They're connected to an app. So obviously, the same vehicles can be used for just standard, kind of what I would kind of call old school ride shared mobility, where you take the car from A to B. So maybe you get off at the train, jump into the car, drive to where you need to go. So yeah, that's maybe some interface there. We make the software architecture and the EE architecture, which by no stretch of the imagination is that a mature system. Very, very far from it, to be honest. But there's a lot of ready-made systems. We have to put them together, and we have to do that work on a more detailed level. But they're designed to be developer-friendly. They're not designed to be a closed system, for just us. They're designed to be a developer-friendly car API that makes it really easy to interface with anybody's apps and other forms of mobility. It's really just a platform as a service. It's to say, what's the part that's missing? There's great shared mobility apps, there's startups, there's on-demand delivery, there's everybody else, but they all have the same bottleneck. So we're just trying to solve that bottleneck and design the system from the software to the platform to everything else to solve that bottleneck.
And what do you think the largest challenge is, like in the near future, or right now?
I mean, so obviously, having enough capital is a big challenge. The main piece of that is, making sure we got a great plan. I think the volume production, it's basically a lot of companies that can do it, but to get from here to volume production that's working in a meaningful way, that's going to be pretty hard, I think. There was kind of a time where, companies or partners or anything would say, yeah, we got this, we can do the whole thing, no problem. And I would be like, yeah, this is going to be easy, it's all solved. And I would tell the world, and everyone would think, yay, it's done. But nowadays, that's back when I had the, bliss of naivety, you could say. You go through these phases where you don't know what you don't know, and then you don't know what you don't know, and then you go, okay, I don't know anything about this. So you're just kind of relying on more experienced people to come in and help you out, and thankfully, that's the trend within the company, to have people that are much more routinely confident with this kind of thing, and I think they're the big challenges. I mean, what else can I say?
So you mentioned capital is a challenge, and you must have a lot of capital to be able to pull this off.
No, I mean, that's the expectation that people have sometimes, right? That you have huge amounts of money. It couldn't be further from the truth. We started this thing with literally zero. The whole first year, 2016, the total investments were something like 20,000 euros, and that was to get an office together and so forth. I had in that first year, put the message out there, hey, we're working on this thing, and it attracted a lot of people, and everybody sort of chipped in to help, people that wanted this same future. But I was living in the office. I lived in an office cubicle for 3 months. I had money for rent, but I put everything I had into the company. I think I was like the 16th person to even take a small salary. So no, that couldn't be further from the truth. We've kind of scratched and dimed for every single dollar that we've got, and just tried to achieve the most we could with what we've had. And that's always been an ongoing battle. We've been trying to raise capital for years. We're trying, we'll probably be raising capital for the next decade, to be honest. Should we be so lucky to keep on fighting for this cause through that time period. So the expectation is, you've got to have $1 billion. Everyone has $1 billion to do this kind of thing. Yeah, that's the approach that most of them take. And, guess what? That we can see time and time again that doesn't necessarily work. And that's definitely not what this story is. I mean, when I was back living in the office, or even living in the student dorm over here, when we moved to these offices, I had people sending me like, "Oh, how's my pitch deck? Are you interested to investing?" And I'm thinking, I don't know what you're asking. You, like, I get paid less than you, you know.
So now you have engineers in the UK, and you'll be delivering your first cars from the UK. But how does Brexit affect that?
Well, I mean, just to clarify, when we say we have engineers in the UK, I just want to be super clear with everything because, people build all kind of different perceptions. We don't have an internal team that's on our balance sheet that we pay a salary to individually in the UK. We've got a partnering company. The objective is to merge these companies together over time when it, if everything makes sense. So we go to partnering companies. Some of them, of course, publicly are, working for Unity as some form of director, but it's a partner company. They're, doing a great job, and we're confident in what they do. But the Brexit question, I get that one quite a lot. I had one journalist say, she was really panicked. She said, "What about Brexit? What about the war? What about the refugees? What about?" It just extrapolated to these really scary things, and I could see that it was just a kind of general fear of bad stuff in the world. And I had to say, look, we're aware that there's a potential Brexit, and in general, bad stuff in the world. All we can do is be aware of it, to prepare for it, to do the math, to be prepared to operate in that kind of scenario. Not to get really emotional about it or anything like that, but to think clearly about it and to make good decisions. Again, our business model is not designed to just squeeze out this margin on these first cars coming out of the UK. It's a much bigger picture. Volume production, I don't think it's definitely not feasible to do that in the UK. So, there's a lot more to it than just the face value of, isn't Brexit scary and shouldn't you run away from things that you're scared of? Because I can tell you, there's a lot more scary stuff than that in in this thing. And no, we don't run away from things we're scared of.
How do you feel about failure? Are you scared of failure with this company, or I mean, it's a high risk thing, and there's obviously a large chance of failure. And how do you feel about that?
I've been fearful of failure before. Often people are fearful of things and they don't realize it directly. They won't be able to directly connect that they're fearful of something. But no, I mean, I remember why we're doing this. My perspective changes quite a lot over time. I mean, the perspective I have right now is not so much. There's still the North Star, but the hyper focus is on really what the team. I mean, if I think of Boo and Marcelo, I just want to see the smile on their face when they see their car driving around in the street. That is my absolute near-term focus. The first customer, they see it and go, "Oh, I love this." They get a smile. They're filled with. That's really the near-term focus. That's really the only kind of thing I live for at the moment, is the people that are really engaged in this, and how can I deliver for them what they want, and how can I support that. But overall failure, I mean, I don't fear it so much anymore. I kind of, if you fear it, it really clutters your mind. I mean, at some points in the past, I would be, fearful of all kinds of things that I wasn't aware of, and it makes you desperate and it makes you not think clearly. But if you can be at peace with all this kind of stuff, and you can have peace, you can think a lot more clearly, and that is literally, I think, the only way to pull something like this off, is to be at peace with whatever comes. Do the right thing. I wish it was as easy as saying, look, I don't know the answer to this question. Here are the 3 options. Which is the wisest decision? But I never get that answer. And that's my job, is to try to work that out, right? But Yeah, I mean, I don't fear the failure. I think if I do that, I'm doing a disservice to everybody that believes in this company and that invests in this company, and I just can't do my job properly. So, by the way, it took years to get to that state, though.
I can imagine. And you mentioned that you've changed over the years, and as someone who's been following this journey obviously sees those changes. And I mean, why is that? Why do you change so often?
Me personally?
No, as the company strategy and things like that.
Well, I mean, you start out, right? You start out with, I start out with this extreme, like, we got to do everything differently. We got to solve every single piece of every single problem all at once. And so from the early days, I was like, for example, I don't know if you recall, in the first year, I was like, we must have 50-50 females and males. It must be this and it must be that. And after a while, you go, well, I can't trade off anything. This is all the right thing to do. But yeah, you got to find the right thing to do in what series. And you got to pick your battles. And if you try to pick every single battle and not focus on, certain battles, you won't get anything, right? So that's how it goes. I mean, I had this dream to build a factory in Sweden, and I just wanted it so bad. I came to this country. I just, I wanted to learn this way of life and this way of thinking and being and so forth, and I wanted to contribute something, but I still brought with me this, we're gonna have a factory. And of course I got a lot of people around that are like, we'll do a factory over here, and there's a lot of different kind of influences, and what you want to happen and becomes, what you believe, and you believe what you really desperately want to believe. And yeah, I don't know, eventually you start to go, hell, I gotta find an easier path to do all this kind of thing, otherwise we're not going to make it. That's the capital efficiency question. If I had huge amounts of cash, I mean, Tesla ran out of cash all the time, and we run out of cash. For anybody that's wondering, we run out of cash routinely over the years. It's the nature of the thing. I mean, every time Tesla ran out of cash, Musk would sort of pump in another $20 million until he ran out of cash, and then he teamed up with Daimler or whatever company it was. So ours is not a story where we can just do that and stay the course necessarily. What we can do is be agile, and if something needs to change, we need to be able to change it. That's an advantage in many ways, and it's one of the few advantages that we have, the ability to adapt. To quote Charles Darwin, it is not the smartest of species that survives, nor the toughest. It is the species most adaptable to change. And that adapting to change is the only reason we are still here. It is not because of monster amounts of cash or some kind of genius that just had this plan all set from day one that couldn't be further from the truth. It's a plan that you're working out. It's a plan that's unfolding, and you always make the best decisions you can in the moment with the information and resources available, and that is the only option you have.
That's a wonderful answer.
That's the truth. What can I say?
No, of course.
I love to say, oh, we're gonna heap some money. I'm a rich guy. Well, let's get it done. But I mean, some people may say, like, okay, if you don't have heaps of money, why do you try to do this? What can I do, man, if I feel like overwhelmingly compelled to do something? Like when Elon Musk says this is, if something's important enough, you got to do it anyway, I feel really compelled by that. When Greta Thunberg says we have to focus on the things we need to do right now, like, I feel like, what can you do right now? Go and do it. Whether you think it can work or not, go and do it. There's not so many people that are willing to do this kind of thing, and so I started doing it. And there's a lot of people out there that were like, you know what, I want to jump on this and help you out as best I can. And you're one of them. Thank you, Albin.
No worries. Of course.
Yeah.
And just to wrap things up, what one thing do you really want to tell any viewer that's watching and has come this far in this video till the end? What do you want to let them know?
I mean, thanks for your support. Thanks for listening to this video so far. Know that we're doing everything that we can within our abilities to make this happen. Yeah, just I don't know, just really just thanks for watching.
Okay, thank you, Lewis. And that was our Unity Update 31 podcast session. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments below, and Lewis will try to reply to them as well. And thank you once again for taking the opportunity to
No problem.
answer
And
all
if you
these
have questions and you want us to do this again, by all means, shoot them through. Maybe we'll do one again. Who knows?
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.